When you hear the word the Avengers, this may come to mind. A group of fictional superheroes saving the world, compliments of Marvel Entertainment. It is the centerpiece of the most successful connected movie universe in the history of film. But what if I told you the original Avengers were a very much real and not fictional team? In this video, we're going to talk about a top secret Jewish mercenary team formed just after World War II with the mission of payback against Nazi scum. They called themselves the Avengers. This is real history and I'm not making this up. Welcome to Comic Power. My name is Comic Killer 72 and welcome to another episode of The Quick Flip. This is the program where I go over comic book industry news in a short period of time. Alright, let's get right into it. Are you ready for a history lesson? Because I'm sure that your mind is blown. We have to go back to World War I to explain some of this, where Germany was on the losing side of that war. It was a huge psychological and a financial blow to Germany's economy. The hard times in Germany led to a fascist takeover with Hitler and his Nazi party. They preached a false doctrine of Aryan supremacy and discrimination against minorities. As Hitler and his Nazi party cultivated power in the early 1930s, he made declarations to purge the undesirables in Germany, including homosexuals, gypsies, and of course, Jews. And this led to Jewish Germans being put in concentration camps where over 6 million of them died. There are still some Holocaust survivors around today. They're around 80 to 100 years old, and they have a tattoo on them that has their numbering stamp. Because when the Nazis heard them up in camps, this is how they identified them. Did I mention before that Hitler is probably the most evil person to ever live? Man, this is low. It took all the efforts of the most powerful countries in Europe to stop Hitler, including Russia, the UK, and to a lesser extent, France. And when the United States got in the war, his goose was cooked because he was fighting too many wars on too many fronts. The Germans officially surrendered in 1945. Hitler committed suicide with his girlfriend in a bunker. The Jews that were in camps were liberated, and the world got a chance to see the genocidal extermination campaign conducted by the Nazis, and it was horrific. In response, a paramilitary Jewish group was formed called Nakam, which is Hebrew for revenge. This all-Jewish, mixed-gender mercenary team was also known as the Avengers, with the intention of killing as many Nazis as possible, and I approve that message. You may have heard the movie Inglourious Basterds by Quentin Tarantino. It's a fictional revenge fantasy tale that includes scenes in which some Jewish soldiers are seeking revenge against Nazis. But while Inglourious Basterds is fiction, the Avengers were real. A lot of their adventures were sealed and kept top secret classified by the American government. Because although the Nazis deserved it, this probably wasn't good public relations for the Jewish people. One of the leaders of this Nazi-killing mercenary team was Joseph Harmatz. He was a Lithuanian Jew who was born in 1925. He passed away in 2016, but he left behind a treasure trove of information with numerous interviews that he gave, and he had no remorse about his role in the execution of Nazis. He said his only regret was that he didn't kill more of them. Man, I like this guy. In a now declassified intelligence report, it turns out that the Avengers were responsible for the poisoning of hundreds of Nazi POWs in an American POW camp in 1946. So the Jewish Avengers were real, and yes, they did do missions against real-life Nazis. So the question is, did Marvel Comics know about this history and intentionally called their team the Avengers in honor and as a salute to these Nazi killers? We're going to answer that question in just a little bit, but let's look at the historical Marvel Avengers. We actually had to start with DC, and the year is 1960, and they put out The Brave and the Bold number 28, which brings us the Justice League of America, where they team up all their greatest superheroes and they fight the starfish. It really doesn't matter who they fought, it was a big hit, putting together a dream. This was a time that Marvel wasn't even doing superhero comics. They were the company that was formerly known as Timely Comics. They had big hits in the superhero format in the 1940s with Namor the Submariner, and of course Captain America punching Nazis. By the late 1940s, their superhero content stopped selling, so they stopped producing them. They changed the name of the company to Atlas Comics in the 1950s, and they produce romance, westerns, horror, everything except actual superhero content. But once again, with the success of the Brave and the Bold issue, Marvel said, you know what, let's take one more shot at superheroes and see what happens. Of course, this led to the release of the Fantastic Four number 1 in 1961, and it was a huge hit. And they followed it up with one of the biggest outbreaks of creativity ever in the history of the medium. And this isn't all of them, but this is just what's relevant to the conversation of our topic today. The Hulk gets introduced in the Incredible Hulk number 1 from May of 1962. Thor gets introduced introduced in Journey into Mystery number 83 from June of 1962. It's the first appearance of Loki as well. Ant-Man gets introduced in Tales to Astonish number 35 in September of 1962. Tony Stark, aka Iron Man, gets introduced in Tales of Suspense in March of 1963, and the Wasp gets introduced in Tales to Astonish number 44 in June of 1963. And then Marvel does its true answer to the Justice League of America, putting out the Avengers number 1 in September of 1963. And think about this, the Iron Man character was only 6 months old when they decided to include him in the Avengers. This character, expertly played by Robert Downey Jr., is by far the most popular character in the history of the MCU live action. But at the time, he was just a rookie character who was in strong need of a redesign, which came later. The Avengers was easily one of Marvel's most consistent and best-selling titles, like forever. I could do a whole 1-hour video just explaining all the key issues. I just don't have time for that. But some of the most major keys are Avengers number 1, of course, when the team first forms. Avengers number 4, when Captain America is thawed out of the ice and joins the team. Avengers number 8, which is the first full appearance of Kang the Conqueror, who's going to be the main bad guy in the Avengers Part 5. Avengers number 87 is the origin of King T'Challa, the Black Panther, who had joined the team in Avengers number 52. Trust me, I'm just scratching the surface with that. The Avengers is a big deal, you know this, and it's the centerpiece of the most successful connected live action movie universe in the history of film. And the name of this fictional team sounds pretty safe by today's standard, but it may be based on a Jewish revolutionary mercenary vigilante team. And hopefully this video goes viral and a lot of people learn about this story, but I would guess at the time I made this video, 99% of people don't know about this backstory about the association of that name, Avengers. So let me go back to that question I asked previously. Did Marvel know about the real Avengers from World War II? Was the name a coincidence, or was it in honor of these Nazi killers? And the Comic Power Court rules that I think they knew about this. I don't think this was a secret. I think this was intentional, because Timely Comics, which eventually became Marvel Comics, was founded by and employed a lot of Jewish Americans. The founder of the company was Martin Goodman, who was Jewish, the son of Jewish immigrants from Lithuania, which was the same place where Joseph Harmatz was from, the field commander of the Avengers Jewish mercenary team. So I don't have any evidence that Joseph Harmatz and Martin Goodman knew each other, but that's quite a coincidence. Also working at Timely later Marvel was Joe Simon, who was Jewish and the co-creator of Captain America. Joe lived long enough to see the Chris Evans version of Captain America released in theaters before he passed. Also working there was Martin Goodman's younger cousin, a guy you might know by the name of Stan Lee, who was born into a Jewish family. And of course, Jack Kirby, the king of comics. And guess what? He too is Jewish. Stan Lee and Jack Kirby are like the Lennon and McCartney of comics, or the Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre of comics, or whatever analogy you want to give. One of the most underrated creators at Marvel was Artie Simek, who also was Jewish. He was a letterer, but he also created a lot of logo designs during the 1960s. There were more, but those were the key people there that were of the Jewish faith. So let's be clear here. There was an insurgent vigilante team of Jewish people named the Avengers, seeking revenge on Nazis. And then a comic book company that was founded and ran by a lot of Jewish Americans so happened to have a team of fictional characters called the Avengers. What are the odds of that being a coincidence? So tell me, do you think it's a coincidence that Marvel just so happened to use the name the Avengers? Or do you think the use of the name was intentional to honor this Jewish Nazi killing mercenary team? I mean, seriously, Marvel already hinted how they feel about Nazis introducing Captain America in 1941 punching Hitler. So to me, that's some compelling evidence that they did know. You know the drill. Be sure to subscribe to this channel, give it a thumbs up, and share these videos on social media so others learn about the Comic Power channel. And after you subscribe, be sure to click on the bell for notifications. It will alert you when new videos come out. While you're here, be sure to check out some of my other intriguing videos, such as me ranking the top 20 comics in the 2010s according to Comic Power. I think that decade was a new golden age of creativity in comics. Also check out the video where I ask, is Spider-Man this Archie with superpowers? Until next time, this is Comic Killer 72 for Comic Power saying keep printed comics alive by supporting your local comic book store. Bye bye.